Welcome! I hope you're doing well today. My name is Reed Faster, and through the vast expanse of the internet, you've found your way to my cozy recommendation corner. Today, I want to share with you a trilogy I just finished reading by Linden A, a queer cryptid who currently resides in Madrid. The trilogy was their debut, and I'm so excited to tell you about them. These novels are space operas, which blend the future and some of the worst aspects of our past, with characters from many different backgrounds. Queer? Yep. Challenging gender norms and roles? This has it. Rebellion, intrigue, and fascism? With a touch of unnecessary wars. All here. So please, join me while I discuss the First Sister trilogy by Linden A. Book 1 is titled The First Sister. We meet three characters who are our narrators. Hero, the child of a rich politician/scientist. Lido, Hero's partner, who grew up in the worst neighborhoods and struggling for existence. And First Sister, a woman living on a spaceship. Lido and Hero are duelists, a group of specially trained operatives who work in pairs that are able to sense each other through their neural implants. In fact, a majority of their society, the Akari, have these implants, and this will come into play in the later books. While we see Lido's thoughts and emotions directly as they happen, we only see Heroes from an audio database addressed to Lido. First Sister doesn't have a name beyond her title, but she is part of an order of courtesans, which is in turn part of a religious body that governs the Gains, another society of humans. The Akari and the Gains are at war with each other, but both have another group that they consider to be lesser, and so discriminate against them. This is a group of post-Earth, meaning post-space travel and living off of our home planet, the Asters. All are human, even though the Asters are treated more like a subservient, lesser alien species. Lido has been paired with Ophira, another mysterious duelist that Lido has never seen before. They have been tasked with hunting down Hero, as they have gone missing and it is presumed that they have defected. Hero had been sent on a mission to kill the mother, the head of the religious order that the First Sister had been indoctrinated into as a child. First Sister is really where your attention is focused for this first book. She is desperately trying to become the personal concubine and confessor to the new captain of the Juno, Sato Ren. She wants to escape being forced to serve the other soldiers on the ship. Service, for her and the other sisters, includes providing comfort with her body and her mind. She cannot speak, nor can any of the other sisters, as their voices were taken from them when they joined the Order. They communicate with sign language that only the Order knows, and they are watched over on the ship by ants who provide their assignments and make sure they stay isolated and competitive with each other. They remind me quite a bit of Frank Herbert's Bene Gesserit, only with even less control over their lives. Here's where an overarching theme appears for all of the trilogy: the lack of consent and the ability to consent, and what that looks like. While it seems like it's only the sisters who have that ability removed, as the story unfolds, you realize that Lido and Hero are also forced into their roles without really being given a choice or the information that would allow them to truly consent. Though both have their voices, neither are given a real choice about their respective missions, nor the fact that they are separated, despite having been partners from the time of schooling up until other important missions. The Asters are not given a choice about how they are forced to live. They are not able to improve their situation due to how the different societies treat them. When Lido eventually joins the rebellion to stop the poor treatment of the Asters, he really learns how awful the leaders, and particularly Val Akira Labs, treat them. Val Akira Labs is run by Hero's father, Soji, who performs medical experimentation on them with horrific results. Ophira has been given less of a choice about her life, as she and her husband are kept in cryosleep and only allowed out one at a time when they are needed by the Akari government. The final reveals really lean into the corruption of the Akari and the Gain government, and how loss of autonomy can be insidious and pervasive, as most people remain ignorant to it. It highlights how even people in the most powerful positions, both physically and politically, can lack the ability to make informed decisions. I'm not referring to someone being omnipotent, but when information is available and is being withheld for political or manipulative purposes. Even the good characters in this novel participate in this withholding. The next novel in the trilogy, The Second Rebel, is told by four voices: Hero, Leto, Astrid, who we know formally as the first sister, and Leto's sibling, Luce. Hero and Leto are working for the outlaws to help the rebellion, working to undermine the Akari and the gang governments and stop the oppression of the Asters. A new player has entered the political arena, the synthetics, who have removed themselves from the humans and created a perimeter around the current solar system, containing humans and preventing them from exploring further into space. The synthetics have imposed rules to prevent them from using their old factories for manufacturing weapons. Hero has been sent to Atarkia, a station that is situated just outside the synthetic perimeter, where people are living without conflict for the most part. Asters are treated as equals there. Hero is sent to track down someone who's been seen a little bit too close to outlaw business. Leto is sent with Ophira to rescue her husband, who is an Aster who's been kept in cryosleep and only let out to, well, to put it bluntly, to fuck shit up for his Akari masters. As noted before, Ophira and her husband are only let out one at a time and used to keep the other in check. Astrid has gotten into sisterhood politics, leading Ceres, another colony, as their first sister. She manages in this position to promote peace while seething internally about the secrets of the sisterhood. Astrid is working to change how they operate and how they treat their sisters, while trying not to get stabbed in the back. Luce is working on her own rebellion through guerrilla acts of art. She's forced on the run when she agrees to help the Asters, but not before going through a major change of her own. This story focuses primarily on Leto's journey, but the growth of all the characters is the main theme. There's a lot of lifting of the veil. While each character is definitely on the side of the greater good, each is learning how much bigger the issues are and how much they really don't know. They're also learning that not everyone has the same goals, nor the same ways to get to the goals that they currently have. Some of those means seem even worse than the actions they are meant to prevent, which leans into the idea that in order to fight violence, sometimes you have to turn to violence and damn the consequences. The secrets that these characters uncover lead to the sacrifices they all need to make, or are forced to make. Each person ends this novel almost completely stripped of their previous illusions. The stories here end in a weird mix of despair and hope that made me incredibly eager for the last book of the trilogy. We start to see how rebellion is not and should not be nice. Most times, ignorance is what keeps the awful things happening. The Asters are treated like second-class citizens because of the spread of misinformation, and when the veil gets lifted, people will protest out of outrage, out of shame for their own actions, and out of fear they will be the next ones to become second-class citizens. At least, that's what we would like to think. People, for the most part, are focused on the microcosms of their own daily life and often don't see how that affects the whole. In these stories, people avoid the Asters because they've been told they carry diseases, that they're violent, and that they are savage. Misinformation that is spread and taken root at every level. A lot of good comes from Hero, from Leto, from Luce, and from Astrid, even if it feels like we have lost more than we have gained as we finish the last pages of the second book of the trilogy. What goes before must come to an end, and Lewis definitely provides with the last hero. For this one, I can't really talk too much about the plot without spoiling some of the bigger reveals of the previous books and of this one. In this final novel of the trilogy, the characters we have seen before struggle to come to terms with their grief and loss, while still pushing forward with stopping the Akari and gang cruelties. Soji Valakira, Hero's father, is doing everything within his power to continue his experimentation in order to create a weapon against the synthetics, while the rebel, led by Sorrel, have weapons that are world devastating. He is prepared to use them to make his point, that Asters are humans and should be treated equally, or there will be war. The different factions within each group, the Outlaws, the Akaris, and the Gang, have fractured, and while the goals remain the same, for the most part you can very visibly see the cracks. Those very same cracks, however, lead the way towards resolution as the different groups move the plot forward. Astrid begins freeing the sisters' voices in a series of miracles that aren't all what they seem, with the blessing of the new mother, Lily I, who is harboring secrets of her own. The Akari struggle with the information and interviews the Asters are sharing, headed by Luce, who stays behind the camera for the most part. Riots and protests are happening, but are being suppressed by nefarious means, including framing the Asters. The Asters, led by Sorrel, unleash their weapons on the guilty and innocent alike. The synthetics don't distinguish between the different groups, considering them all to be human. They see humans as breaking the prohibitions against using their factories and weapons, and unleash the consequences. The Sisterhood, led by the ruling body, the Agora, faces internal warring and politics, leading to more divisiveness. The Agora are led by the machinations of the military faction of the Gains, headed by the warlord and one of the ants who rules them. All of this is brought to a head as the groups head to meet the synthetics to renegotiate the treaty between humans and machines. Everything is leading to an explosive conclusion. At times, this particular novel seems filled with hopelessness. War is horrific, and not everyone agrees with how goals should be met, or even how far they're willing to go to make those goals happen. Grief and emotional turmoil cloud judgment, leading to horrific acts of violence. Our main characters seem broken, heading into the final act, despite the resolve to see it through to the end. The last hero feels like Lewis gives a very satisfying finish to the story, neatly tying up each storyline, even if the package seems like it's falling apart. One thing I want to talk about is how this novel really brings into focus the different types of loving relationships that are possible. Not just family, but friendships and platonic loves. Relationships that are frantically romantic and sexual, betrayed relationships slowly repairing themselves, and some that can never be repaired. None of the characters come out of this unscathed, with the larger context of different societies coming to terms with their own flaws and the destruction and trauma they have caused, and beginning to do the work to repair those relationships. The work of dealing with this kind of trauma isn't easy, and you can see the difficulties ahead for everyone. Our heroes are a part of that, even if they don't take on the same roles they did before. Evil isn't eradicated or defeated, because evil isn't black and white. People are made to face this and their own part in it. And that's really the whole point. The narrative isn't as neatly tied up as you see in a lot of older space operas. Life continues, and life, as always, is messy and confusing and full of changes that we can't predict. Lewis captures this beautifully and reminds the readers that change isn't easy and isn't just a one-time transaction. It's difficult and ongoing. This is the most important lesson that I took away from this trilogy. Thank you for joining me on this epic journey as I reviewed the First Sister trilogy by Linden A. Lewis. The books include The First Sister, The Second Rebel, and The Last Hero, and are available wherever books are sold. Please remember to like this video by clicking the thumbs up button, and click the subscribe button to be notified about upcoming reviews. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Please support your local bookstore, and remember that when the last chapter is read and the last page is turned, I will be here to provide you with another book suggestion, should you need it. This is Read Faster's Recommendation Corner. Goodbye.